Everyone in Owerri thought Mirembe and Tajiri had the perfect marriage. They looked like a dream couple, always smiling at events, holding hands in public and showing up in matching outfits. Tajiri was the kind of man many women dreamed of. Tall, handsome, successful, and incredibly charming. He never forgot an anniversary, brought flowers home for no reason, and made sure everyone knew how much he loved his wife. Mirembe, beautiful and graceful, often caught herself thinking how lucky she was to have him. Their life seemed almost too good to be true. They lived in a lovely home, traveled often, and even had a little inside joke they shared every morning over coffee. Mirembe truly believed she had found her forever. But then the late-night calls began. First, she didn't think much of it. Work never really ends for someone like Tajiri, right? But night after night, she'd hear his phone buzz past midnight. He'd step out of the room whispering softly, pacing the hallway. When she asked who it was, he'd smile and brush it off. Just business, he'd say, kissing her forehead. And because she loved him, she believed him. Still, something inside her shifted. A tiny voice began whispering, "What if he's hiding something?" But she pushed the thought away. After all, this was Tajiri, the man who once cried during their wedding vows. The man who made her feel like the center of his world. She told herself not to doubt. But deep down, a seed of suspicion had been planted. And no matter how hard she tried, it had already started to grow. It happened on a quiet Wednesday night. Mirembe was lying on the couch, scrolling through her phone, when a message popped up from Tajiri. Just a single heart emoji. Purple heart, no words, just that. She smiled at first, thinking it was sweet, until a few seconds later another message came in. "Sorry, that wasn't for you." Her heart stopped. She stared at the screen, confused. What did he mean it wasn't for her? She waited for him to say more, but nothing came. A cold wave rushed through her chest. She typed back slowly. "Then who was it for?" Tajiri replied almost immediately. "Oh babe, I was just messing around. You know I love teasing you. Don't take it seriously." But it didn't feel like a joke. His tone was off. The kind of off that only someone in love would notice. Something wasn't right. Not the message, not the weird slip. Not the way he suddenly tried to laugh it off. Her mind started racing. And then, like a puzzle snapping into place, a name popped into her head. Zola. Tajiri's ex. The one he swore he hadn't spoken to in years. Mirembe didn't say much after that. She just sent back a simple "okay" and put her phone down. Her hands were shaking. Her chest felt tight. He came home later that night acting like nothing had happened. He wrapped his arms around her, kissed her forehead like always, told her how much he loved her. "You're overthinking again, babe. Don't let small things ruin what we have," he whispered. But in her heart, she knew it wasn't a small thing. A heart emoji doesn't land in the wrong chat by accident. Not when it's meant for someone else. That night Mirembe didn't cry. She didn't scream. She just stared at the ceiling long after he'd fallen asleep beside her. Something had cracked deep inside her. The perfect picture of their love was no longer whole. And for the first time she began to wonder who the man lying next to her really was. The perfume was the first thing that made her stomach twist. It wasn't hers. Mirembe had her own soft, powdery scent, subtle, familiar. But this one was bold. Sweet, loud, and too strong. It clung to Tajiri's shirt like a secret. The moment she leaned in to hug him, it hit her. He froze for half a second, then smiled like nothing was wrong. "Just brushed past someone at work," he said casually. She nodded, kissed his cheek, and didn't say a word. But inside, something in her heart tightened. A few days later, she noticed a faint pink shimmer on his shirt collar. Lip gloss. She didn't even own that color. She reached out like she was fixing his collar and wiped it with her finger, acting normal. He laughed, made some joke about being clumsy with food, and walked away. But Mirembe took a photo of the stain as soon as he left the room. The weekends started disappearing too. Tajiri, who once never wanted to leave her side on Saturdays, suddenly became very busy. Meetings, errands, emergencies. Always last minute. Always without her. He'd leave early, come back late, sometimes not at all. "You wouldn't enjoy it anyway," he'd say with a smile. "Just boring stuff." But it wasn't boring to her. It was suspicious. Her heart ached, but she didn't cry. She didn't scream. Instead, she began to collect everything quietly. Every strange receipt, every scent, every stain, every excuse. Mirembe became two people. The sweet, trusting wife on the outside, and the sharp, silent observer on the inside. She stopped asking questions. Not because she believed him, but because she already knew. The lies didn't even hurt the way they used to. What hurt more was realizing that the man she once called home was slowly turning into a stranger. So she waited, not for the truth but for the right moment. And when it came, she knew she wouldn't shout. She'd simply show him everything he thought she didn't see. It was a Saturday morning when Tajiri kissed Mirembe on the forehead and said he had a quick trip to Enugu for business. His suitcase was already packed, his shirt perfectly ironed, and his smile a little too wide. Mirembe smiled back, helped him adjust his collar, and waved as he walked out the door. But what he didn't know was that she had already booked a ticket on the same route, just 1 hour behind him. She wasn't angry. She wasn't panicking. She was calm, like someone who had already cried all her tears. When she got to Enugu, she didn't go to her hotel. She went straight to the luxury resort she had seen on his credit card statement 2 weeks ago, the same one he said he'd never been to. She waited in the cafe across the street, her eyes hidden behind dark sunglasses, phone in hand, heart pounding like a drum in her chest. And then she saw them. Tajiri, laughing, holding hands with Zola. Zola with her long braids, flawless makeup, and the same scent Mirembe had smelled on his shirt. They looked happy, too happy. Tajiri leaned in, whispered something in Zola's ear, and she threw her head back laughing. He reached across the table and touched her face gently, like he used to do with Mirembe. It felt like watching someone else's life. Mirembe sat frozen, her coffee untouched, her throat dry. Her chest tightened, but she didn't cry. Not there. Not yet. She took out her phone and snapped a few photos. Not for revenge, not yet. Just for proof. For herself. To finally stop wondering if she was imagining everything. After a while they walked toward the poolside bar. He held Zola close, kissed her cheek, whispered like no one in the world mattered but them. Mirembe stood up, turned around and walked away. No scenes. No shouting. Just quiet pain and a heart that had finally stopped doubting. She didn't need to ask him anything anymore. She had seen enough. The mask was off. And now it was her turn to move. Not as his wife, but as the woman he underestimated. When Mirembe got back to Owerri, she didn't scream. She didn't cry. She didn't even tell anyone what she had seen in Enugu. Instead, she sat down at her dining table with a notebook, opened a fresh page and wrote one sentence at the top. He thinks I don't know. Then she started writing everything she'd noticed, dates, times, places. Every lie he told. Every trip he took. Every late-night call. She added the photo of him and Zola at the resort, printed it, and slipped it between the pages. That same evening, Tajiri came home acting like the perfect husband. He brought her food from her favorite restaurant, kissed her like he missed her, and talked about how stressful his meetings were. Mirembe smiled, listened carefully, even rubbed his shoulders while he talked. But inside she was studying him like a textbook. When he fell asleep, she quietly opened his wallet. She already knew his credit card PIN. He once made a joke about how easy it was to remember because it was their wedding date. She noted down the card details, the bank name, and the limit she had overheard during one of his calls. She wasn't just watching now, she was preparing, calculating, plotting like someone with nothing left to lose. Every word he said became a piece of a puzzle. Every step he took was another opportunity to learn. She checked his browser history, his flight bookings, even the gifts he sent Zola, all paid for with the same card he once told her was for emergencies only. Mirembe didn't want to fight. She wanted freedom. And now she had the tools. She wasn't going to break down. She was going to break free. The best part? He still thought she was clueless. He looked at her with soft eyes, kissed her goodnight, and had no idea the woman lying next to him was no longer the same. She had stopped being the victim. Now she was the one holding the pen, and she was about to rewrite the ending. Tajiri had no idea. While he was busy sneaking off to spend nights with Zola, telling lies and playing the role of a man in control, Mirembe was quietly building a new life behind his back. One transaction at a time. He had once given her access to his credit card, just in case of emergencies. He said it with such love, Back when he still brought her roses and meant his kisses. He never remembered to take her name off the authorization. And now, that little mistake was about to become her freedom. Mirembe had always dreamed of owning a house by the ocean. Somewhere quiet. Somewhere beautiful. A place where she could hear the waves instead of apologies, and feel the sun on her skin instead of shame in her heart. One evening, after confirming the remaining balance and calling a trusted agent in Zanzibar, she did it. Just like that. She bought the house. A stunning beachside villa with white stone walls, tall palm trees and glass doors that opened straight to the sea. Paid in full with his card. No guilt. No second thoughts. Just a calm, steady kind of joy. When the payment cleared, she stood in the kitchen, staring at the receipt on her phone, and smiled like someone finally breathing after being underwater too long. He was out again that night, probably working late, probably in someone else's bed, but Mirembe didn't care. She cooked her own dinner, played soft music, and danced barefoot on the tiled floor of a home she'd soon leave behind. For once, she wasn't waiting for answers. She was making moves. The next morning, Tajiri handed her his dirty laundry, kissed her cheek, and walked out without a clue. He had no idea his card had just taken a $300,000 hit. No idea his wife was already mentally living in a paradise he'd never be invited to. She didn't need to scream. She didn't need to fight. She just needed an ocean, a house with her name on it, and a plan. And now she had all three. Tajiri's panic started with one phone call from his bank. He was in the middle of a lunch date with Zola when the alert came through. A $300,000 transaction charged to his account. His heart dropped. He checked the message 3 times, hoping it was a mistake. But it wasn't. He rushed outside, called the bank, shouted into the phone and demanded answers. Who authorized this? How did this happen? The calm voice on the other end replied. The transaction was made using an authorized cardholder. Mirembe Adichie. Silence. Tajiri couldn't breathe. That was his money. His account. And she had used it, all of it. He called her immediately. Mirembe. What did you do with my money? But Mirembe's voice was calm, almost soft. Hi, love. I've been expecting your call. Would you like to have dinner tonight? Dinner? He barked. Mirembe, this isn't a joke. She cut in, gentle but firm. 7 p.m. I'll send you the address. That evening, Tajiri showed up to a place he had never seen before. A breathtaking villa right by the sea. The kind of place people dream about. Everything was perfect. The ocean breeze, the lights, the smell of grilled seafood in the air. And there she was. Mirembe, glowing, calm, dressed in white, barefoot, and sipping wine like a woman who had found peace. He stormed in. Where is my money? She looked up and smiled. Where is my husband? That question hit harder than he expected. You gave me silence, lies, and someone else's perfume. I took a house, she said softly, pouring him a glass. Fair trade, don't you think? Tajiri didn't know what to say. His words, his excuses, all fell apart under her calm stare. For the first time, he wasn't in control. Mirembe leaned back in her chair, lifted her glass and said, To freedom. He didn't raise his. She didn't care. Dinner was quiet. Tajiri sat across from Mirembe, barely touching his food, his mind clearly racing. He kept looking around the house, her house, still trying to understand how she pulled it off. The ocean view, the fine decor, the peace in her eyes. None of it made sense to him. But it made perfect sense to her. Mirembe was calm, graceful, even warm. She asked if he liked the food. She poured him another glass of wine. He nodded, still stiff, still searching for the upper hand. But he had none. When they were done eating, she stood up and walked into the next room. Tajiri leaned back, rubbing his temples. He was expecting a lecture, maybe a breakdown. But when she returned, she was holding a neat brown envelope. She placed it gently in front of him. Dessert, she said with a small smile. He frowned, opened it slowly and froze. Divorce papers. Signed. Stamped. Ready. He looked up confused. Mirembe, what is this? She folded her arms and leaned against the table, her voice steady. It's your freedom. You wanted it, didn't you? You found it in Zola's arms. Now take it. Tajiri blinked. You can't be serious. Oh, I'm very serious, she replied. You see, while you were giving your heart to someone else, I was taking back my life. And the money? Don't worry, that beach house is in my name. Every brick. Every tile. Every inch of it. He opened his mouth to argue, but no words came out. Mirembe walked over, kissed him lightly on the cheek, the same way he used to kiss her when he was hiding things, and whispered, "You may have broken my heart, but I used the pieces to build something beautiful." Then she walked to the balcony, letting the ocean breeze wrap around her. Behind her, Tajiri sat in silence, holding the papers that ended everything. She didn't turn back. She didn't need to. The story was no longer his to tell. Zola always believed she was the one Tajiri truly wanted. He told her sweet things, how Mirembe didn't understand him anymore, how their marriage was just for show, how he felt alive only when he was with her. And Zola believed every word. She believed the stolen weekends, the secret dinners, and the promises whispered in hotel rooms. But one evening everything changed. They were at her apartment watching a movie when Tajiri got quiet. His phone kept buzzing. He ignored it. Zola noticed but didn't say anything at first. Then she saw the envelope sticking out of his briefcase, the same one Mirembe had handed him over dinner. Out of curiosity, she opened it when he went to the bathroom. And what she saw made her heart drop. Divorce papers. Signed by Mirembe. Zola's eyes widened. This was it, she thought. He's finally leaving her. But as she flipped through the documents, excitement turned into confusion. Her name wasn't mentioned anywhere. No future plans. No next steps. Just silence. When Tajiri came back, she held the papers up. So what now? He looked caught off guard. What do you mean? You said you were leaving her. You said we'd be together. He rubbed his neck, avoided her eyes. Zola, let's not rush things. This is complicated. That's when it hit her. There was no plan. No new life. No happily ever after with her. She was never the next chapter, just a page he flipped to when he got bored. You never planned to choose me, she whispered, more to herself than to him. Tajiri tried to speak, but Zola stood up, already grabbing her things. Her hands were shaking, but her voice was firm. You lied to her and you lied to me. I was just your little escape, wasn't I? He didn't answer. She walked out the door without looking back. And for the first time Tajiri was truly alone. No wife, no mistress, no control. He thought he could have it all. Instead, he lost everything. The beach house in Zanzibar was never just about the view. For Mirembe it was a fresh start. A quiet, beautiful place where she could breathe again. But soon she realized it could be more than that. She began inviting women over. Friends, strangers, women who had been through heartbreak, betrayal, or just needed space to think. Some came for a weekend, others stayed for weeks. They shared stories, cried, laughed, cooked together, and slowly began to heal. What started as a personal escape turned into a movement. Mirembe turned her home into a women's retreat. A safe place for African women to rest, reflect, and rebuild. She called it the Haven. Workshops filled the garden. There were sessions on healing, money management, starting a business, and finding your voice again. Women came from all over Lagos, Accra, Nairobi, Kigali. And every single one of them left stronger than they came. Mirembe never told them the full story of what happened with Tajiri. She didn't need to. Her peace, her power, her presence. They told the story louder than words ever could. She had turned pain into purpose, silence into strength. People asked her if she missed him, if she regretted anything. She always smiled and said, I don't live in the past. I built something better. And she did. Not just a house. Not just an empire. But a legacy. Mirembe didn't just buy her freedom. She multiplied it. And gave it away freely to every woman who walked through her doors.